wanted to,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
conflicting.
So, yes. So,
Great.
thank you, Liz. Thank you. Thank you. You can always go like that and I'll shush. Um, people's attachment to place is so profound. I'm going to say this as briefly as possible so it doesn't turn into a speech. People's attachment to place is so profound. And when something happens to damage the places we love, the tendency is to avoid them and to feel like they've abandoned us, so we abandon them. And when by reconnecting with those places, we not only reconnect with those places and find beauty where there hasn't been any for a while, we recognize new life in the place. And we also gain a kind of a boldness for facing the wounded places in ourselves and in our friends and in society. So it's just an incredibly simple and profound way of changing our perspective of the places that are in our midst. That's what I want people to know. I want people to realize that when you go to hurt places, no matter what they are, whether it's a tree in your backyard that's infected by insects or whether it's a nuclear waste facility, going there and being attentive and telling stories and giving ceremony is a profound act.
Well, and sort of piggybacking on what Christy said, Trebbe, how does that translate to 2 generations from now?
Because people know, people are doing it. People all over the world are doing it. It's like it's automatic.
Yeah.
It's a form of consciousness that has been awakened in the world.
Yeah.
Or reawakened. Yeah.
I don't know if it's even reawakened. It's there. It's awake. It's awake.
Well, I think 2 things happened for me in the last 2 weeks. One, Trebbe, I've had a big sense of relief that you're still interested in participating in the future of RadJoy. As I was prior to 2 weeks ago, I was thinking your foot was out the door and what happens next. So that has helped me a lot in understanding how the future of this could go, but also then committing to Liz and a paid position is huge. It's a very big step, and to me that those 2 things I left feeling like, well, this is going to happen. The future is going to happen because you're and so then back to fundraising and how to afford these visions, and but that was sort of the last couple of weeks for me.
And then adding to that, building a board members that could help us do that. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I got kind of clear on today was, is that I am going to be around, I'm going to be doing things, but I don't want to sort of like be there as the go-to person for all kinds of questions, especially the first few weeks. Like I really don't want to do that. I want to take care of all the business before December 31st so that the new RadJoy is just ready to go.
And what I've heard you say, Trebbe, is, you are absolutely on board to still be part of the organization, but it's just the things that you really enjoy, and that's totally what we want to, where we want to get to, where that you get to, do, talks and, writing and things like that are.
Which I do on my own anyway.
Right.
So.
Right.
And, yeah, right.
I was just sort of restating in a different way that you don't want to be like, can you do this and can you do that?
I wanted to share just now, hearing you say that, Trebbe, just really defining the vision of RadJoy, of people. We know it's worked. I'm thinking of it, like taking minutes, but also to touch my heart, and I want to hold it, of valuing place and all places, and an automatic, a thing that we do, a cultural norm of recognizing place and making beauty, and doing ceremony for place, wounded or not, for us recognizing ourselves as place as well, and others. And in some way, like in that kind of organization mind, I'm thinking, so that's when RadJoy doesn't need to exist anymore, is when that's happening, and we see it happening without any pushing. Or is that what it is? So RadJoy needs to continue to exist until people are doing this and taking it up on their own, whether they're calling it RadJoy or not. Does that sound right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that makes me think of two things. One was when I first started RadJoy, I took a workshop on fundraising with a woman named Chris Klein. I think that's her first name, Chris. And she asked everybody in the workshop, like how many of you are planning on having your organization be going 50 years in the future? And everybody raised their hands. And she said, you shouldn't want that, because if you achieve the goals of your organization, you don't need to exist 50 years in the future. So that's one thing. And the other one is, I forget what the other one was, Jay, that you said. But anyway, I agree with you.
Okay, I think that helps in terms of us knowing what, having it really clear, knows why and how and what it looks like when it's working.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in a way, Radical Joy for Hard Times is, or maybe I'll say the Earth Exchange, and then everything that comes out of Radical Joy for Hard Times are the practices, the teachings, the communication vehicles, all the ways that we're working to shift that consciousness and create the automatic practice of turning towards all places and finding and bringing beauty and becoming bold enough to face the hurt places within ourselves and our culture. So, I mean, I'm just kind of sorting it in my mind. It's like, so, any practice that we come up with that achieves that mission, or communication vehicle, or set of people or roles that are furthering that mission, we're tending to the hearth. I think of a mission as like, what do we keep coming circle back around to, and how do we feed it? What are the logs? What are the that feeds that fire, that feeds that vision, the hearth?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And when we created Radical Joy for Hard Times, we deliberately thought we would keep the practice like really flexible. And so the plan now is that Liz and Harry are talking about is to actually have like workshops and trainings. But I still think it's very important that you're doing this work. If you're in a car and you speed past an animal that's on the highway and you just bow to it and thank it for its life, that's or you pass a clear cut and you do that. It's like, it's acknowledging. You don't, like, you're finding and making beauty in hurt places, no matter, even if you do just a bit of it, it's that change of consciousness. It's we don't want people to feel like they have to do the whole thing and go somewhere and do this whole thing in order for it to count.
One of the things, and this has always been a part of it, is it's not new, but just I'm feeling like this need to have not more emphasis on, but equal emphasis, or maybe more is the right word, of the inner wounds and the outer wounds, just, that's again always been part of the Global Earth Exchange and Radical Joy, but I just feel like that is something that's so needed right now,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and it's not separate anyway, because some of those wounds that we feel for the place are, it's just part of who we are. And yeah, just kind of a side thing of sort of part of that vision that I would want to keep in mind. And again, it's not new. It's always been part of RadJoy, but
And it doesn't have to be that way. So like there's a group of people in Bali who do the Global Earth Exchange. And if you told them that it had to be about inner wounds as well as outer wounds, they would absolutely would not participate. They wouldn't get it. They
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
do it.
understand. Yeah.
But they get doing ceremony in a wounded place.
Mhm. And I think keeping that adaptability is critical, because that's sort of the power in it. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, a gathering of a set date and time. It's a, honoring the dead animal on the side of the road as you drive by, and
So
bringing
how
that
do
into
we keep
consciousness.
that? How do we keep that fire going? How do we keep that going? Because we don't want it to only be me keeping it going. How do we get it going in more people?
Can I ask, I want to answer that question too, but it's related. I don't know how or if, and I assume you know a lot about it, Trebbe. It's in your brain about different similar practices, like or cultures, or that you would say are that acknowledgement of place and beauty and doing those things. In terms of kind of explicitly pointing to them and saying there's another version of RadJoy and there's another version of that. It's not just Global Earth Exchange 5 steps. This is one way of doing it for folks who don't have a lineage or a training in it. This is one way of doing it. But I'm guessing you know of versions of it. Like, have you done that before? Like specifically pointing out other.
Yeah, well, some of that is a lot of that is in the weekly blog Radical Joy Revealed, where it'll pick up on some kind of something that somebody's doing. So I mean, there are bits of examples. Like for example, there was a funeral for mountains in West Virginia years and years ago for the mountains whose tops are being blown off. I mentioned several things in the Radical Joy for Hard Times book. Like unfortunately, not a lot of them are coming to mind right now. And then, then of course, Glenn Albrecht created this term, solastalgia, which identifies the pain one feels when the place you love and where you live is under assault. Or he says, the homesickness you feel when you're still at home. There's lots of little currents of this. As far as I know, there are not particular ceremonies or practices like go to a wounded place, tell your story, make beauty. And I've been thinking and looking into this for many years. I mean, but there's all kinds of little bitty things. There's Joanna Macy, who talks about despair and power in the nuclear age. There's lots of bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about, and I think I'm wondering how, as one of these your question about how do we promote it, how do we make this happen more, because it is happening. Like one thing is how does the newsletter get out to more people, or what's another format for that whatever's in the newsletter to get to people who are over email newsletters. And in some ways, that's a whole book or multiple books, because you've been doing that newsletter for so long. All those stories could even be recycled. and we learn something new when we read the same thing again 3 years later anyway.
And they might need to be, because Liz, I don't know what your capacity is, but we're talking about who's going to do the newsletter.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not
Maybe-
planning to do it
Yeah. So
weekly.
maybe there's a couple time-based processes here where it's like, okay, December, sort of a hard line, a big time hard line for Trebbe. But then for you, it could be, again, 1 year after that. And so it buys you some time where you have 12 newsletters that you can repurpose. And Trebbe, maybe you could help repurpose them. You're all ready to go for 12 newsletters.
That's
Because
great.
we don't want Liz to burn out and say, I can't do this, and I have a full-time job already somewhere else, which I know you do.
The other thing to that, such a great idea. But we also thought about having occasional like guest writers or something too,
Yeah.
like inviting. And kind of speaking a little bit to Jay, what you were asking, one of the things that I was really hoping to do is start develop, and Trebbe's already doing this and has been doing this, but just continue to build on that of partnering up, with different organizations and people and in my mind, someday even like the Sierra Club would be doing a global Earth exchange, but starting with organizations that are a little less, I don't know what the word is, a little more heart to them, more heart-centered organizations. So, just kind of, we've been compiling lists of other potential partners to just, build relationships with those organization leaders and then let them do the, getting the word out to their members kind of thing, so that's one of the things that I think would address some of what you were asking.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because that's something that Liz in particular has an interest in. And so, like you have to take advantage of what the president leading the group forward is passionate about. And that's what she cares about. So that should be a priority. And maybe there's somebody that's helping her with that, who's looking into things and helping to make contact and finding out how that's done and and keeping it going. I mean, I have started out with that, but I just haven't been, I'm not good at keeping it going in most cases.
Or you just have other focuses.
I'm not good at it.
Well, it also seems like the website is really important to current and future. So your historical, but also because you don't have one place that people go for this. The website is the one place people can go, right? So I think however you've been keeping that up to date, like that's important. Where are you going to direct new people? The website. You're not going to say go to Trebbe's house or go to Liz's house or something like. So I think that's and also I think Trebbe's book is important because it does seem like people are relying on that for or maybe there's you can do a summary of the Earth courses, the Earth exchange, like somehow capturing that to be able to relay that to people. Like how do you spread this without being in the room with somebody and handing it over to them? I think it's electronic.
Yeah, and how do you get them to care? I mean, how do you get them to care?
Yeah.
And Jay's
put the word out over and over and over and over and over again, but how do you get it into people's hearts?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a thought that came up, but someone else was about to speak.
Go ahead.
Two thoughts that are coming to me. One is the really improving and becoming more widespread, at least in Australia, and I think you have it in the US a bit as well, is developing, normalizing acknowledgement of country is what it's called here, where we recognize that I'm on the land, the traditional land of the Kabi Kabi people, recognizing the place, the sky, the earth, the elders, past, present, and future. And while it's done badly, often it is done in like any government organization has a PowerPoint slide when they're doing a meeting, where they're starting to, as a matter of course, have that. And to me, a good acknowledgement country, it is about a very small grounding and ceremony of place and recognizing our place in the greater world and in the deep time. And while it was really hard to get started, because more people are doing it, and it sort of blossoms in that way. And even if some people are reading this card that they've been given because their boss told them to read it, it started that thing, and more people think about it. And then you go to somewhere and someone does a really good one, and suddenly you're inspired by it.
Hmm.
Part of me is wondering if there's ways of getting into.
Am I the only one that can't hear? No, looks like Jay froze. Or is it
Oh,
me?
I can hear.
sorry.
No,
Or
I
maybe it was
can-
me. I think it was me that froze.
Yes.
Sorry. Part of me is wondering, how do you make a simple RadJoy practice, a simple acknowledging place and beauty and woundedness and all of that in a really PowerPoint slide, like not ideal, but if more people, if that existed in lots of people's consciousness, then some people would be doing it better and better at events and things that would be contagious, let's say. And I'm wondering if, I don't know, because I don't know the deep history of RadJoy, but Trebbe, have you done stuff with academics? Has it been researched or put into publications that would be useful in talking to the like Climate Psychology Alliance and those kinds of groups?
A few.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm thinking about. Might be a way of
Yeah.
spreading it through those kinds of groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been a few, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. Be sure and write all that down, if you will.
Yeah.
keep thinking and talking and writing, if you will, Jay.
Trying.
So what I'm thinking of, and I love that idea of like, how does, how does shift in consciousness happen? And I hear you kind of musing on that, Jay, how it happened with the land acknowledgement, and how can we learn from that around how to shift culture and consciousness? And then the question would become, okay, there's a great project, and then how does it happen and who does it? So I think there is that for this organization. And I was really, I don't want to change the conversation too much if we're kind of in a flow, but I am curious about the comments on the thing about, okay, we've got ambassadors, board members, advisors, and what are the roles of the future that would implement? Let's say Jay has this idea, and then we come up with, oh yeah, let's create these little cards and a slide that all of our organizations could use. And then like, how does all that happen? And what are the roles and who are the people? So
Yeah, good
I
question.
just kind of, I don't know if we want to answer that now, but it kind of speaks to structure.
Yeah.
And this might also be helpful with when we do our fundraising push of like, who are the people that would work on that?
Yeah, definitely. Right, because that's where we're really going to need to rely on the board and other people to volunteer, because that's been our difficulty, like for the last 15 years. If there's a good idea, and often I'm the one that comes up with them, then I'm the one that activates them. So, and Liz is not going to be full-time. Her main job is going to be the Global Earth Exchange. So how do these wonderful ideas get activated? Christi, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So just to explain these groups, which was a question about the last one. So the band is the board of directors. So that, that doesn't need too much explaining. The Earth Ambassadors was a group that finally just ended a few months ago. The idea of it was that it was going to be people who were committed to spreading radical joy for hard times in their community. Good idea. The thing was, nobody really wanted to do that. You know, they wanted to do little practices week to week and share about it online. So a couple of us just felt like this isn't working, and we kept trying to change it. So we just dissolved it. There were maybe about 12 people in name who would come, and maybe 7 or 8 who would, or 6 or 7 who would come regularly to once a month meetings. The Council of Advisors was, you know, it was kind of like that group that you put down on, you know, if you're a nonprofit organization, prominent people who support your work, philosophically. Most of them haven't done anything. Except we've interviewed them on Harriet's, and we've interviewed a bunch of them on Harriet's and my interview program. In fact, probably all of them, I think. But they don't really do anything. They don't really help. They don't help at all. And there are people who subscribe to the newsletter, which comes out every week, which I do not plan on keeping on writing. And then there's a quarterly newsletter that, or, you know, it's supposed to be quarterly, but usually it's maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Probably 3 is more likely. That goes out to everybody on our mailing list. And that's, you know, and then there are people who have done special programs, you know, like we did one a couple of years ago called the Global Day of Mourning for COVID. You know, there have been like five special programs, and there are people who have participated in that, but that's very loose. Those people don't stay in touch in any way whatsoever. I think that's it.
And Liz,
So
do you think, sorry, go ahead. Liz, do you think weekly, quarterly, do you think those newsletters are in your capacity to manage?
I don't want that in the future.
No.
I think recycling material
Yeah.
is, you know, maybe a monthly letter or something is really totally
Yeah, but then
manageable.
somebody would have to write it so that it's current. I mean, you can't
Okay.
recycle a newsletter and have it be current, you know.
Yeah, but I was just saying, I think that would be manageable for me to do once a
Oh,
month.
okay.
Yeah. Especially if it's recycled, like I don't have to start from a blank
You're just
screen.
editing.
Oh, a template.
Yeah, and having
Yeah.
like, you know, potentially including in that some guest writers or something, so that, you know, like you know, our board members, whatever, just that sort of help take on some of that, even just spreading it out, you know, three a year per person or something, you know, I think would be
Yeah.
really do. And I think it is important in a certain way to, like, you know, bring that, you know, maybe not every week, you know, we don't need to do that, but I think once a month would be once on the first of the month or
Doable.
something, you know.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I think
That
it
would be good.
yeah.
There's always
Maybe we get
stories.
Trebbe once in a while to do a guest.
Yes,
If you
twice a
want.
year.
Yeah, twice a year.
Well, and then, you know, what would be important would be to invite people to send in stuff they're doing, because
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah. Well, that kind of speaks too of how, so I got to do the posting many of the stories this year from the Global Earth Exchange. And, you know, I've read them before, you know, over the years on the website, but there's something about reading someone's story and then reaching out to them personally. That there was just some magic in that I talked to Trebbe about. And, you know, she said that you had tried to connect, like, you know, people before, but anyway, I think that I kind of forget where that was going, but something about the newsletter just sort of reminded me of that. Oh, just having, like, I don't know, just making the face human or something of these stories, you know, having a guest who share their story on the monthly letter, you know, something like that. It just makes it more personal, you know, not just a story you're reading, but like a real heart connection to another human being somewhere on the other side of the world.
yeah, you know, Christi made a slideshow. Oh gosh, it must have been 10 years ago almost. And in the first few years of the Global Earth Exchange, we had slideshows that our web manager at the time, Monroe,
Oh, yeah.
set up, and there would be, you know, they would just add as they came in, and you would have somebody's photo, and underneath it, the place where they did it. And it was just wonderful. I mean, it was really moving.
Well,
And
with
we don't have I mean, I spoke to our web guy this year about doing that, but you know, it was, well, it didn't happen this year because we didn't have a way of doing it. But I think it would be pretty easy to do.
I think with Jay's idea of the hashtag, that you would sort of just have it done automatically by using a hashtag, or you could just get all these stories or pictures together.
Well, seeing it as a slideshow was what was
Yeah.
really nice.
And someone still would need to monitor it, because we've had a few things here at Pioneers where it was sort of open source, and
Yeah.
people just put the worst things on there, you know, so
Got to keep it.
you have to police, I don't know what you call it, but moderating is very important, because you come back and it's pretty, some bad stuff, but
Can you remove a hashtag? Like if somebody did that though, you couldn't really do anything about it.
you
could
probably
you?
can block the person who
Oh, okay.
posted it, right?
Yeah.
I think you can block posting,
Yeah.
or you
Well, that's-
contact, we're on the platform
Audit.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't, you know, when you think of growing and what that means and how to grow this, that there are going to be people coming in that you don't know, you know, that you've never met in person. You know, it's impossible to meet all these people.
Yeah.
Probably even impossible to meet the people you already have on there. But
I found the slideshow, so maybe at the end of the meeting, if y'all want to
Yeah.
watch it
yeah.
for a
Oh,
little,
yes,
like,
Christy.
you know, whatever. But
That was wonderful.
I'm glad to hear, Elizabeth, that once a month with the newsletter. And I think what we can support you with too is just to try to figure out how to make it simple
Yeah.
and
Yep.
and easy, you know, like even if there's stories on the website already, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
put it, you know, one or two of those, if the people get permission, you might want, I don't know. And then you put those stories, and then a few statements, and it just, because if we're talking about shifting consciousness, right, it means staying in people's psyche. And
Yeah.
so if we can make it easier for you, but have it once a month, and then, you know, maybe Trebbe writes something for a magazine or what have you, boom, okay, that's an
Yep.
easy one. You know,
Yeah.
so
Or a
you know,
video, you know.
or video, or, you know, it's like, how can we make that simple for you? And I had a thought about the advisors. It sounds like this is not a group for work and getting stuff done, but I wonder if it is a group that's worth cultivating or nurturing, just because it's not Trebbe, it's a community, and having a community that is, you know, that has some credibility. Not that we all here don't have credibility, but oh, okay, no, maybe here's the better word: name recognition, right? We're all credible. Name recognition, and people know, and it just gives a little bit to it. So I guess I wonder if part of the structure includes, you know, how do we keep up some of that with the advisors, you know, or not? Maybe it's something that is let go of, but
I like
Well, they're
that.
all good. I mean,
Yeah.
the five of them who are still there, I think there are five. Anyway, they're all really good people. I know them all. Some of you know some of them. I think enlisting them in some way would not be a problem at all.
Especially for the transition, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, January 1st, 2025, that's a big leap. And I mean, these people seem like they've had commitment to the project for the past, and I also think, Trebbe, it sounds like you're open and willing. This, you know, 12 months from now, this could look very different. It could look very different. And that your hope is that it's thriving and surviving and thriving, not that it's Trebbe Junior or something, you know, like,
Oh, no, I don't want it to be Trebbe Junior. That's the point. You
yeah,
know, it needs to not be Trebbe Junior. It needs to be whatever it is. I mean, even if the name changed, you know,
yeah.
as long as it's about finding and making beauty in hard places, that's what needs to continue. And really, you know, I think there's a lot of good ideas coming, and the wonderful thing and the challenging thing will be enlisting our group to want to participate. You know, like, how do we enlist people to want to participate? I do not know. I do not know.
I wonder, yeah, I definitely think there's a bunch of calling in, or actually really asking for help from these folks that are affiliated, but we may not know how to ask for help, or we need a specific ask, I think, when you're asking people for help, particularly credible people, Christi, the famous folks who you've interviewed in the cafe, those kinds of things, like really a specific ask, which might be, Jeffrey, I like that idea of it, asking them to be part of this transition ceremony, because it's a big, perhaps a bigger thing, and asking these folks to be part of that, and maybe something else. And don't go away, because we've got more for you. And that's really, it is hard to ask for help, to say we need you or it doesn't happen, that kind of thing. The other thing I'm wondering, Trebbe, if you can speak more to the group that I wrote down, the Earth Ambassadors, who you said they did set up with that intention of empowering, correct me if I'm wrong, empowering them to get RadJoy into their community, spread it into their community. And in some ways, it sounds like you were trying to let go and let them go and do their things. What do you think stopped them, or inhibited, or were they not confident in doing that themselves?
I think the intention got a little mushy pretty early on. That's what I think happened. And it just got mushier and mushier, you know. It was like it's just got like, you know, fruit that you pick, and it just keeps getting softer and softer and softer. And finally you have to just throw it out. I did my blueberry picking 2 days ago, and that's what happening to my blueberries. So this is the metaphor that's in my mind. Yeah.
Wow.
I was, you know, the group here. So here's another thing, like more specifically, the group was enjoying taking turns with having different facilitators and assigning different little kinds of exercises outdoors for the rest of the group to do. And then we would come and tell stories about them. So they were into that. And I felt like then shy about pushing, well, this is really supposed to be about doing this in your community. Because if they were into doing what they were doing, I wasn't sure if I should like make them do what I wanted them to do when there clearly wasn't that interest, to be totally honest.
Okay, that's great. So they became more like a book club without the book, like activities within themselves.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But you were feeling shy or not confident to say, well, hang on, what I want to do is go outwards rather than inwards to the circle. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Jay's going, Yes, that's correct.
What was the original motivator to get the advisory board? Was there an actual thing, or was it just
No, it was to have the, you know, it's like so many
Added.
nonprofits. They have this
Oh,
list
I thought
of
you said that already.
famous
Yep.
people.
And Trebbe, do you think then, Liz, do you think that the public or your supporters, do they know that there's a transition happening? Do they know that you're role is changing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So none of this will come as a surprise. And I mean, I think what Jay is sort of leaning into is like, how do we get the goodwill from the community that you already have engaged? How do we get that goodwill to embrace this? And there might be some people who surface that are, you know, would be your board members. Like, and I think an active board could really help this.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really, really could.
Yeah, I think it's necessary really
Yeah.
to have an active board.
And a committed board. I mean,
Yeah,
right now we
committee.
have a board where we have 3 members who have been members for 4, 5, 6 years. But there's been such, I mean, I wrote that in the note where you all received, there's been a lot of turnover with this particular board since the beginning.
And if you have staff, or, you know, if Liz can become the through line, and what you want, I think, is a few board members who can and then help train in the next board members. Like, it can't just be, you know, my feeling is there's a good future for this project. There's so much heart behind it, and I think people benefit from it so much that it does seem like there's a very loyal and interested community. And I think that's going to be key here. That's going to really help with the soft landing on the change. You know?
Yeah, and I just keep coming back to that ecotherapy training. I think it was the ecotherapy training you did, Trebbe, where just there was so much feedback from
Oh yeah, Pacifica
students of
graduated.
like how, you know, that hers and like one other person's were the ones that stood out the most. And to me, that just says how necessary this kind of thing is, or how people really need it, and maybe don't even know it, you know, and that's why I think that's why I'm so really driven to like connect with organizations, because I feel like, you know, we have like it's like kind of a unique thing, but it doesn't get out necessarily to everybody in the world, even when we try the social media and stuff, and it's relationships that really build that. And that's what, like, I'm sure it applies to this, but in my community, you know, you could advertise and market recruitments all you want, but 50% of the applicants come from relationship. And so I think that, to me, that's why connecting with other leaders of other organizations, like, and groups is, you know, would really go a long way, I think, in bringing more awareness. And there's also the other part of it, which Trebbe, you spoke of a little bit, of like, how do you get, you know, sometimes it's like, it is a hard sell of like, come to a wounded place and grieve, you know, like why would you want to do that when you're, you know, so having I haven't quite identified how to go there either, but to me, there is a component of grief education of like, this is so important to feel joy, as you know, and to see the beauty all around, you know, it's so there's a lot of areas where there's gaps, I think, that, you know, some of those classes that Harriet and I can do, or, you know, things that can just, even just a week long, or a week long, like a day long 2-hour workshop or something that just kind of,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah. Again, back to Christi saying simplify, right? There's an opportunity here to simplify so that it can grow, because you know, right now, if all of a sudden you had 20,000 people interested in, I don't know that the system could handle huge interest, you know, right? But if it's simple and you have some processes in place, you could handle, you know, and I think the goal is growth, right? The goal is growth. So how do you do it and have it be sustainable?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We have just a little over 5 minutes.
Oh boy. It went fast.
Yeah, this is great.
That's it.
Thank you all so much.
That's a good sign.
We're gonna see Christi's slideshow too.
Oh yeah.
Can I ask, maybe this is something for next time, we don't have time now, but in terms of a board, what is required? Like, there's probably specific requirements with the whatever legislation, and what is it that you think are the, or what have been the positions, and what you think we should have? Maybe that's for later.
Well, I can answer that simply. I think, you know, for my excuse for myself is, I mean, I'm just trying to be honest here. There are a lot of things I've done really well and a lot of things that I haven't done very well. So I came from like 50 years of being a freelance writer to founding a nonprofit when I was 60 years old. So that's where I came from. And what I did at first was I brought people in who were in alignment with the vision. And, you know, I knew about this thing of like 30% work and 30% wealth and 30%, I can't even remember the other one, but it just wasn't clear, Jay, what people's responsibilities were. And I think that was frustrating to people. And also people didn't want to fundraise. You know, they came on with this idea of, yes, I love the idea of Radical Joy for Hard Times, but I don't want to ask people for money. So, so those were two things I think that, and we have not had clear expectations of board members. Although Christi in the very beginning made this beautiful organizational guidelines, which we read before every board meeting, about how, you know, we take care of, we're honest about the wounds in ourselves. We speak about if there's something that's bothering us, you know, it's beautiful. And it's about, and it's how we have functioned as an organization, and why I think even though it's a small board and there's been a lot of turnover, I don't think there's any hard feelings about all these band members who've come and gone. I think they all left still being in alignment with the vision. They don't hate me. I don't hate them, you know, so that's a long answer to your question, Jay.
Is there a
Like to
minimum
see-
number of board members that you need?
4.
Four.
Yep.
And then what, three officer positions, or?
Yeah, we right now we only have 3 because one resigned about, I don't know, a month or 2 ago.
She's technically still on, but
She's technically still
yeah.
on, so we can be lawful to our.
just for the record.
And more than one person can be an officer, right?
Oh, yes.
Or one person can be hold more than one officer.
I suppose, yeah, sure, why not?
It's often
are you talking like director, secretary, treasurer, or something like that?
yeah,
President,
or
yeah.
chair,
President.
vice chair,
Chair.
treasurer, secretary. Those are the 4. But often like the vice chair and the treasurer, or the vice chair and the secretary are often the same person.
Okay.
So I think you can get it down to 3 people maybe on the board. And you could change your bylaws to be 3 people if you wanted to.
Yeah, we could. So
Well-
I'm leaving on next Thursday to guide a vision quest with veterans, so I will not be here for the next one, but I hope you'll all meet without me, and then I'll be back for the next one and for all the
And-
following ones.
Yeah, I have the
Okay.
next one down as the 10th. Does everyone
Yep.
have that on there? Okay. And then also the one after that, which would be the 24th, I will not be available, so that might be a good thing to just have a chance for you guys to talk, or we reschedule it or something.
I think we should meet when, I think we should
I think
continue
so.
to meet when we're
I do too.
scheduled.
Yeah, just keep it on that. Yeah.
Otherwise, we go nuts with rescheduling.
And we can always record, we are recording it, so if someone
yeah.
misses it, you know, can.
Exactly. And
back
we'll
to
send
me.
this to Polly. And yeah, and I was going to say too, Jay, you know, if you wanted to, thank you for taking notes.
Yeah,
And,
thanks.
you know, and so you'll have the recording. I'll put it up on YouTube and send you all the link. And so in case anybody wants to check anything, it'll be available.
Yeah, great. I'll try and neaten it up and then let you guys edit it and comment. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's not-
I have a really hard time listening and writing. Like if I type, I'm not involved, you know, so I really
Yeah.
appreciate you doing that.
Me too.
Some people have a better knack for it than others. All right.
Well, once again, I just am so grateful to all of you all the five of you, all four of you. Just so grateful to you for saying yes to this and for your wonderful ideas and your honesty and your questions, and it's very, very, very encouraging.
Yeah, I feel the same. Very, very grateful and very excited and inspired.
Thank you
All
all.
right.
It's been really, really good meeting, I think.
Yeah. So you want to see Christie's slideshow?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Get
Thank you.
get a taste of the Global Earth Exchange.
It's 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
All right.
Great.
All right.
Okay. And have a wonderful trip, Trevi.
Thank you.
Safe and wonderful.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, I hope the sound comes through.
Me too.
That's always the issue because there's music with it. I'm gonna maybe take off my headphones.
Mm. Is this on YouTube or anything? No.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can hear
We'll
you.
try it. Here it goes.
Hold on. Can't really hear the music, Chrissy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that Philip Phillips?
As we roll down some familiar road, and although this way strings are slow, just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. Trouble and might drag you down. You get lost, you can always be found. No, we are not alone.
Hmm.
I'm gonna make this place your home.
Hmm.
Don't pay no mind to the demons, they the trouble is I drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know we are not alone. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
Oh,
Very good.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Isn't it moving?
Yeah.
See how
Very.
beautiful it is that people all over the world get what it is when your place that you love is damaged and they can go and love it again. It's so wonderful.
Mhm.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
I've
for
got to
sharing
head
that.
off. Yeah, thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.